Hello, I'm Sandy. This is Left of the Box. No catchy intro song, no quippy remarks in this video. This is a news bites, but the subject hits a little too close to home, and it literally is a matter of life and death. I came across this article in HuffPost recently, and it made my blood boil. The Prime Minister was asked to share his 2 cents about universal basic income. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau shared his thoughts about a universal basic income during a virtual town hall Wednesday, saying it was an idea worth discussing, but one the government isn't itching to move ahead on. The NDP have advocated the idea of basic income in the House of Commons during the pandemic, calling it a tool that could help eliminate poverty by ensuring Canadians have enough money to meet the basic necessities of life in food, clothing, and shelter. I think it's a very important conversation to have, but as Christia might point out, Trudeau said, referring to the country's finance minister appearing alongside him, it's not something we see a path to moving forward with right now. Well, here are my 2 nickels about what you had to say, Prime Minister Trudeau. Or is it Justin Trudeau? Justin, is it okay if I call you Justin? You arrogant, selfish, entitled, privileged prick. And just so I'm clear, tu es un tout de que sans cas. You were born into wealth and had every advantage handed to you. You've lived a life most of us could only dream of. How dare you brush off the suffering of millions of people you are supposed to be representing? I'm just so sick of this. This is my story. I'm on disability for mental health reasons. What does that mean? I have a hard time interacting and socializing with people without extreme anxiety. And there are many other issues at play, but the main one is the depression that has been with me most of my life. Every day, every single day of my life, I hear the thoughts and I find myself saying out loud, I want to die. Sometimes it's so bad, I can be woken up in the morning by my brain screaming those words at me. I was able to hold down a job for a while, but only because it was the perfect environment for me. I had a fair bit of privacy and could be left alone to do my work, and my boss was one of my best friends. He helped me through my anxieties, and I could go to him when needed, even if it was to ask what the appropriate human response was when one of our colleagues made a personal announcement. I got along well with my coworkers for the most part. We found a balance that they took me as eccentric but friendly. They had no idea of the struggles I was dealing with. I got very good at hiding them. But even with the stability this job granted me, it wasn't enough. My coworkers don't know that one Thursday when I didn't show up to work, it was because the previous evening, had it not been for a friend with a key to my apartment randomly checking in on me, I would have died by my own hand. They don't know that when I showed up on Friday, it was only because of the few people who knew what had happened. None of them were available to monitor me during the day. They felt it was best I go in and be around people because they knew I wouldn't do anything drastic in front of them. My boss was out of the office that day because he had already planned a vacation day so that he could do a bunch of appointments he needed to take. So he called in every 1 to 2 hours to make sure I was all right. I wasn't, but I managed. I should have been off work for a minimum 2 months after that to recover, but I went back in the following Monday. I didn't want to risk losing my job, and I didn't want my coworkers to find out what had happened. I was worried if they did, they would never look at me the same way again. I was worried they would be afraid of me or think I was broken. The job was good for a while. But then upper management and the environment changed. The privacy I had and my ability to talk to my boss freely were taken away, and it didn't take long for my mental health to crash after that. I would go into work when I was physically sick because at least I could still function, and it was more important to have those sick days for when my mental health made it impossible for me to work. As time went on in this new setup, it became more and more difficult for me to keep it together. It got to the point that I would wake up in the morning and cry because I didn't die in my sleep. I left the job to pursue something I thought I could do to help make a difference in people's lives, but failed at it right off the bat. The company I had worked for folded, and all my former coworkers were left without a job. I can never go back to what I had, and I will never be able to find an ideal job like that again, which means I'm left to rely on my disability payments, which means I'm left to live in poverty. And now I'm going to be kicked out of my apartment soon. Developers bought my building with plans on tearing it down. We can get the notice any day now telling us we have to leave. I have lived here for over 10 years. It's the only way I can afford rent. And I feel safe here. This is the only place that has ever felt like a home to me. When we're forced to move because of the housing crisis, my entire disability check will not cover rent for a place half this size anywhere in this area. The most I can hope for is renting a room or having roommates, but because of my mental health, I can't live with other people. My friends have asked me, what am I going to do when this happens? And I tell them I don't know. But the truth is, I have a pretty good idea where this road leads. Most of my belongings will have to be packed up and put in storage. I'll have to move far away from the area I've spent most of my life in order to find a place I can afford that I don't feel like I'm caging my cats in. That means all the volunteer work I do, all the programs and community organizations I participate with that help me feel like I'm giving back, help me feel like I'm a part of something and have a sense of purpose, all of that will come to an end. My friends will try their best to stay in touch with me, but eventually, being so far away, we'll drift. They'll move on with their lives, and I'll be stuck in a place with no friends, no resources, no supports, feeling like I don't belong. I'll start going days, then even weeks, without having a conversation with anyone. The isolation, loneliness, and lack of hope will eventually catch up with me, and this time, there will be nobody to interrupt me. This is not the life I wanted. There are 1,000 other places I would rather be right now. I didn't choose this. I have tried over and over again to step out of this situation, but every time I do, the stairs have been kicked out under me. Despite that, I still try to find other stairs that I can climb up out of, but I'm afraid I'm running out of places to look. And for those of you watching this thinking since I'm on disability and I don't have to work, so I have it easy and I should just keep my mouth shut and be grateful for what I'm giving, for what I've been given, you're welcome to change places with me. You're welcome to not know if you'll have enough money for the food you need, or to worry that you're going to be kicked out of your home, or to have to ask your friends and family all the time for money just so you can meet the bare necessities. To have a voice in your head constantly telling you how useless you are. To live alone and know one day you will die alone. to never feel like you've ever made a difference or will accomplish anything, to have to, day after day, justify why you shouldn't go through with killing yourself. You may judge me for what you see now, but you are looking through a pinhole. If you knew my experience, everything it took to get me to where I am today, you would think it's a minor miracle I still have my compassion and sense of humor intact. I volunteer. I get involved with politics. I do everything I can to give back to the community because I want to do good. But it shouldn't matter. I shouldn't have to prove my worth. You might be a good person, and you probably are, and would help your neighbor if they were in trouble, just like I would. So I have to ask, when did I stop being your neighbor? And it's not just about me. I started this channel because I want to help as many people as I can. Most people don't know what our government is up to or how bad the situation is for so many people across this country. I don't want others to suffer the same experiences I have, and I know there are so many more people out there who have had it a lot worse than me, and they deserve a voice. My voice is the only thing I have left to offer. So I will use it to speak for that person in Yarmouth who injured their back so severely they can no longer pick up their child. Or for that person in Montreal who just found out they need a life-saving medication but have no idea how they'll pay for their prescription. Or for the person in Iqaluit with a knife to their wrist, desperate for any reason to keep living. Or for the person in Saskatoon who is having to choose between rent and food. And for the person in Burnaby looking for their next high because they can no longer bear the reality they're in. There are millions of stories of people suffering and struggling to get by, and it doesn't need to be this way. The government can fix this now, not 5 years from now, no 10-year strategy now. It's already too late for too many people. It is as simple as a guaranteed income and making the current housing accessible and affordable. It is cheaper for the country, well within the ability of what can be done, and it is the right thing to do. I follow Bill C7, the dying with dignity, or the medical assistance in death, and I notice they never include people with mental health issues on there. Why? Is it because you know if it gets bad enough, we'll eventually take care of it ourselves? I wear this shirt, and on it is a phrase used by people with suicidal ideation. It says, "My life matters." But does it? Not according to the government policies. I love my country. Am I not worth being loved back? Every person who dies of exposure, of an overdose, of despair, and many people in this current pandemic are deaths the government could have prevented but has chosen not to. This is death by government assistance in death, but there sure as hell is no dignity with it. But really, can we be that surprised that the government, who is still engaged in the genocide of the indigenous peoples, would now turn their backs on those living with disability and poverty and allow us to suffer and die? So to all you politicians out there whose spines are comprised of the silver spoon shoved up your ass, you have been put on notice. We are coming for your seat. You cannot take us for granted. We will not stay quiet when you are literally making us fight for our lives. We are stronger than you think, and we are determined to make this country a better place for everyone, not corporations and the wealthiest few. So you can either do what the people want and tax yourself a little, or wait till we get in charge and we will tax your ass into the 90%. You represent us and we will be heard. So do your damn job or quit. Please, everyone who is watching this, share it, spread the message, get it out there. It doesn't have to be this way. We hired the government to do a job. They need to do it. And if you are living with disability or poverty, you need to know it's not your fault. You deserve an income that will give you a good quality of life because you are worth it. Please, everyone, in the comments below, tell the government what you demand they do for the people. And if you're not sure what to say, share your story. On Twitter, use the hashtag #WeWillBeHeard. Together, we can change this country. It's not as hard or as forbidding as the government tells us. I care for you, and as long as I can, I will do everything in my ability to step up for you. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today. Salut, à la prochaine. Goodbye until next time.